Wrestling with wrestling's past and present.
How old were you?
I was -3.
See, JR is trying to contain Jim Ross.
McFlurry,
It's Mick Foley. Definitely not his, the barn burner that Leif Cassidy and Tiger Alley Singh was, but, we'll leave that there.
We digress.
God, I hope that storyline ends soon.
And 6 to 8 weeks later, they mail you a freaking magnet.
Yep. You may know him as the Red Rooster.
Hager kept making out with his wife. It was weird. So then, I'm waiting for them to put the Zelina Vega on a pole match for that to be.
It is in the mail, my good sir. No, it wasn't. Paul.
Giving us a reason to come here and listen to ourselves talk.
Absolutely, and
And then you can listen to us too. We're off to a rough start.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kurt.
And I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And today we're getting back to our normal format. Last week we kind of did a special tribute show to Brody Lee. Today we're getting back to what you guys are used to with New Year's Revolution 2006.
Yeah, I think it was fitting. I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but I think it was fitting to do a little show for Brody. Still, 41 years old, gone way too long. Nobody's had a bad word to say about the guy. Touched a lot of people's lives, and I think we had to do something. And I don't know if we did it any justice versus some of the other tributes, but we did our best. And again, sorry it was over an hour long episode, but how do you cut something like that short?
So today's topic, New Year's Revolution 2006. It took place January 8th, 2006. So yesterday was the 15th anniversary of the show, which is hard to believe that 2006 was 15 years ago.
We're old. That's how we got to face it. We're just old.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny that some of the names that are on this are still relevant today. I wouldn't say it's a lot of them are still wrestling per se, but a lot of the names that have come from this era are still relevant today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get right into it. We have 9 matches to go over. One heat match. That was Chavo Guerrero and Snitsky. Chavo Guerrero getting the win in about 4 minutes. Obviously, we didn't see this one. I can't imagine it was that great of a match, but
anything that has Snitsky in it is probably not good.
No.
Yeah, I'm guessing it wasn't his fault either. So.
But it wasn't his fault.
No.
Match being bad was not his fault. I don't know. Maybe this was when Chavo was Kerwin White and he punted Dolph Ziggler. I don't know. I have no idea. Ziggler was his caddy. I don't fucking know. The Snitsky thing worked out so well with Kane, and then they just kind of went away from it, and he just turned into this. They didn't know what to do with him. He had plenty. His look was a little bit off, but he had a great body and he was a strong guy. I'm surprised that Vince didn't have a raging boner for him the whole time that he was in the company. You would have thought he would have found something for him to do.
I know, and he even dyed his teeth that nasty yellow for his character. So he committed to his role. I'll give him that.
Well, think about what Kane had to do when he was Isaac Yankem. Good Lord.
Yeah.
The nastiest he'd ever seen. And I know they were putting that on there every day, but still, it's comical that, like I said, knowing that Vince likes big guys, they just kind of drop the ball with him.
Yeah. We open up the actual show with the singles match for the Intercontinental Championship. Ric Flair is your champion. He's going to get a win over Edge with Lita by disqualification in just over 7 minutes. I thought this was a good way to open up the show. You open it up with the Intercontinental title match. The match itself was all right. Ric Flair tried to go after Lita a couple times, puts her in the figure 4 leg lock, and then Edge just hits him. Edge is the Money in the Bank holder. And so he hits Ric Flair with the Money in the Bank briefcase to cause the disqualification, and Ric Flair is bleeding like a stuck pig, like he always does.
Always had to have that. Always had to have the blood through the hair, so it was quite a spectacle. But yeah, he had a gusher going that day. I'm pretty sure if he sneezes real hard, he just bleeds out. If he's at home, he just sneezes, his forehead just opens up. Before, but
I was going to say, he's that kind of person. Everything in his life probably needs color. He's, I'm going to Walmart to get Megs. Just bleeds himself.
He's doing a promo with Jay Lethal, pounding on his head, making his head bleed. It's like, wow, Rick, you're dedicated to the wrong part of the business, buddy.
If he's not careful, he's going to look like Abdullah the Butcher's forehead.
Road Napa, Greater Detroit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like you said, Tim, it wasn't a bad way to start the show off. I didn't have high expectations when I saw it was Edge and Ric Flair, because I was like, that's kind of like a styles clash to me, where Edge kind of works a higher risk and more upbeat offense than Flair does, but it really didn't clash as much as I thought. They kept the pace pretty well. Like you said, Lita got involved, and it wasn't a terrible match, but I think that honestly, this pay-per-view had a bunch of just okay matches, and this is one of them. There was nothing wrong with it. It was just okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was a decent match, and like I said, I can't complain about it.
I know it's funny to me to see him as the Attitude Style IC champion at this point, because I kind of forgot he had a run with the belt. And like you said,
when he came out with it, I did the same thing. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I said the exact same thing. I was like, oh, that's right. He had the title. That's weird.
Yeah. Like you said, it was just kind of there, but you could tell this is when he was starting to wind down his career, because he just didn't work as well as he used to.
No, and it's unfortunate that the WWE didn't get Ric Flair in his prime. I know he was there for like a year in 93, 92, 93. When they had the Sid Vicious Royal Rumble win, when Flair and Hogan and all that stupid stuff happened. He brought the NWA title with him at one point. It's too bad that we couldn't have saw Flair in his prime, or even after WCW was bought out. It would have been nice to see Flair have a run right then and there, because he still had probably a couple of years in him. But like a lot of the NWO guys, if you have that guaranteed money coming, why would you go work somewhere else? You're just going to go home and enjoy the guaranteed money.
Exactly.
The one thing I took note about this match is Ric Flair actually hit a move off the top rope, which normally never happens.
And normally he gets up there and someone crotches him and then throws him off.
Yeah,
that's usually the go-to move.
But he was able to hit a clothesline. So that was like the most memorable thing in the match for me.
Like I said, it wasn't a terrible match. It was just there, and it was a decent starter, and it was like I said, I think honestly this whole card was decent. I don't think there was really anything terrible per se. But it was at least a good way to start out of the matches that we had.
Yeah, I agree.
I would agree too.
Next up is a singles match for the women's championship. You have Trish Stratus, who's the champion here, getting a win over Mickie James in about just over 7 minutes. I thought this was a solid women's match for this era. We've said this many times when we go to these shows that women's wrestling was not what it was today. And we'll, case in point, later on in the match, we have a Bra and Panty Scotland match that we'll talk about. But this match I thought was pretty solid. Trish Stratus wins with the chick kick and retains the title.
After Mickie missed the Mick kick.
Yep.
So
I love this feud. I think Trish and Mickie had such a good feud. Mickie played such a good stalker. I thought it was great. It's going to culminate obviously at WrestleMania, but it's a great feud, and they both can work, and they still can work today. Trish Stratus recently made an appearance, and now the rumor is she's going to do the Evolution 2, or that's coming up.
Yeah, and Mickie James is still wrestling. I know they don't seem to have anything for her, but I think she's one of the more underrated talents to ever wrestle. Honestly, I think that she, at the time, if she had been born, 10 years later, she'd probably be, in this women's revolution full bore with Charlotte and Becky and them. But she was kind of born in between, where like they had the Trishas and the Litas, and then there was kind of a gap where it was just garbage wrestling again with some of the women, where they just didn't have. And then now, it was like a 10-year window, and she kind of fell in the middle of that. She went to TNA for a little while. Gail Kim was the same way. She
Victoria.
was in the middle of just, they were phasing out. They started having decent wrestling, and then they started phasing it out again. And some of those people, like we mentioned, just fell in that gap where, unfortunately, their careers kind of got wasted a little bit. And some of the stuff they did in TNA was great, don't get me wrong. But again, if you're going to pick TNA over WWE, which are you going to pick just from a publicity standpoint?
No, that's a good point. It definitely feels like people kind of fell through that crack, like you said, that weird 10-year stretch from 2008 to 2018. It was so off and on until the women's revolution really kind of brought it back into the light and made them not popcorn matches, essentially.
Well, and even 2015 and 16, they were trying to bring it back, but I think everybody at that point had just kind of been like, women's wrestling, it still didn't have that. They had the Bella Twins there trying to do their thing, and they were trying, but it's hard to beat the class that came from NXT together. The Four Horsewomen, all of them together. Some of the people that have come since then, you know, the even Carmella, who's really not as polished as the rest of them, still has a good ring savvy that kind of helps hide the fact she's not quite as polished as the other ones. But I mean, she's still, you know, it's amazing the talent they have now in the women's division.
Yeah, and I think what's hard is, you know, sometimes Vince would only give them like, here's 35 seconds to do your match. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. We can get one spot in.
Tell you what, you got 3 minutes counting your entrance. What? That's like a 1 minute match. Yeah, no, it would be just a typical clunker to get him out there, and for the longest time, I think that was the biggest issue too. Vince didn't take him seriously, no matter what he had. I don't think he felt like there was no following for it, and it just went by the wayside.
It was all for eye candy. That's all it was.
Yep.
Yeah. Next up, we have a singles match. We have Jerry Lawler and Gregory Helms. Gregory Helms is fresh off his Hurricane gimmick. Jerry Lawler gets the win in about 9.5 minutes. I can't really be objective. I'm a huge Jerry Lawler mark. I love Jerry Lawler. So, but this match was his typical face match where he just gets beat to shreds and then just does a comeback in the last minute of the match. Gregory Helms goes off the top rope. Jerry Lawler pushes him off. He falls in position for the fist drop. Gets the fist drop and hits the 1, 2, 3. I don't know. I've always been entertained by when Jerry Lawler wrestles. It's kind of cool for me. So I might not have the best eyesight dissecting this match.
I like the part in the match where about a couple minutes in where Jerry Lawler does the "What's up with that?"
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a typical story of Jerry Lawler making fun of the Hurricane, and then the Hurricane goes away, and Gregory Helms, shows up and has a bone to pick with Lawler, and it was not a terrible match. It told a story, and I think Shane Helms, Gregory Helms, Hurricane Helms, whatever you want to call him, I think he's also very underrated for some of the stuff he could do in the ring. But again, he wasn't big enough. He was not, the 6'4", 280. He was like 6 feet, 185 or whatever, and it didn't. Vince, again, having a rager for, bigger guys, he was one of the people that felt, once think of it this way. The Cruiserweight Championship, when it ended, who ended it with the title? Hornswoggle. That's what he thought of the freaking Cruiserweight division when they disbanded. They just disbanded the Cruiserweight division. Hornswoggle was the current champion, and it just went away. So it's it was a laughing stock. He didn't care about it at all.
Right. And it's a shame because, as the show's covered and, we've all talked about, WCW had the best Cruiserweight division in wrestling history for the longest time and had some really entertaining matches. And Gregory Helms coming from WCW having some amazing matches, Chris Jericho being in those matches, Eddie Guerrero, etc. Like you said, very underrated. And because he wasn't the monster, Vince wanted the Godzillas versus the Mothras. He didn't want the Gregory Helms versus Eddie Guerrero's. And it's a shame because he's another one, going back to what you said about Mickey James, he kind of fell through that weird crack of he just wasn't in wrestling at the right time. If he was in wrestling today in his prime, he'd be so over with everyone.
Look at the rosters nowadays, even in AEW. AEW has like Luchasaurus, Wardlow, and Hager, and that's pretty much it. Brian Cage is a bigger guy, but he's not huge. He's big, stocky, but he's not super tall or anything. And even Will Hobbs, he's, a big powerhouse guy, but he's not huge. And, think of all the matches they have. And I know some of the people, say stuff about being spot monkeys and whatever, but that's what it's evolved to. Littler guys flying around, making high spots, and for better or for worse, the business, like you said, if he had been 10 years older or younger, rather, born 10 years later, maybe he'd be at AEW flying around with the Bucks right now.
Yeah. Excuse me. Next up is a singles match between Triple H and the Big Show. Triple H can get the win in 16 minutes here. Big Show comes out with the biggest cast I've ever seen on his hand. The Triple H smashed his hand with a sledgehammer before, and that's why the cast is on. Triple H that's the whole story with this whole match. Is Triple H is going to go after the hand, go after the cast. He's a little bit intimidated by the cast at first. Trying to tell the referee to take it off, or he's like, "No, I can't. It's a cast."
Yeah, the referees literally like, "It's a cast. How do I take it off?"
Yeah,
I remember that spot being like, I remember that specifically when Triple H literally was like, "Take it off." He's like, "It's a cast. I can't."
Yes, definitely good storytelling in this one. It was a comical. And there was
This-
expressions.
This was done very well. I think this might have been, aside from, I mean, the chamber match wasn't terrible either, but I think this might have been the best one-on-one match on the card. It told the story really well. Big Show sold the hand injury like perfect. He was trying to do certain moves with it, and he was getting hurt. He was playing off that it hurt. I think the story was great. I mean, in one of the promos, Triple H even called him a fat boy. I was like, "Ooh!" I'm like, that wouldn't happen today. Like, he's like, "Come at me, fat boy." It's like, whoa, like, wow, okay. But yeah, no, it was, they had the spot on Raw where he came out with the cast originally. He's punching through chairs and everything. And, Triple H is crapping a brick because he's like, oh man, I just gave him a weapon. I gave him a weapon he can use, a la Bob Orton, who still had, Bob Orton's hand still hasn't healed yet. It's still in a cast. It's amazing that Big Show is able to heal so quickly. But, yeah, great storytelling. I think this was easily the best one-on-one match on the show.
For some reason I was expecting the whole like Kevin Nash like fake cast angle for a bit because I kind of forgot about this angle. And I was expecting, when everything happened, him just pull off and just level Triple H with the cast, like you said, a la Bob Orton too.
Yeah.
But no, it was a solid match. Big Show really did a good job working in this match, and Triple H is Triple H. I mean, he's always good at being cerebral, hence his nickname. Just working that body part, telling the story. He definitely had the good old school, new school mix, and this was my favorite. This was when I loved Triple H the most.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I posted back in 2002, they had the WWE network from when he returned at Madison Square Garden. I mean, for a guy that people seem to love or hate, there seems to be no in between with Triple H, especially now where he's, the COO or whatever you want to call him. It shows you that the fans care about the wrestler versus the person. They can overlook that, he may be a shady character. They may not like the way he's doing whatever backstage, but the pop he got in 2002 when he came back from that quad injury at Madison Square Garden, that just shows you how invested. And the fans never went away. I mean, even when he was a good guy, or a bad guy, or with DX or whatever, the fans always seemed to, even if they were supposed to hate him, some of the Evolution stuff, the fans never went away.
Oh yeah, I still have my paid made laid shirt, Evolution, baby.
I wore that to school once, and then I had to wear Kenny's trench coat the rest of the day.
I wore it too. That my F Skull CK Fear.
Yeah, no, I got in trouble for the paid laid made, and then I think I traded it to Kenny afterwards.
Probably.
He was ballsy enough to keep wearing it. I wasn't. I was like, but yeah.
Next up, we have another singles match. You have Shelton Benjamin with Mama Benjamin getting a win over Viscera in about 7.5 minutes here.
Oh, Tim, why don't you give the backstory on how this happened? Why this happened? Why this match took place? Shelton Benjamin's mom was at catering, and Viscera, she bent over or whatever, and Viscera was trying to get in there and trying to essentially seduce Shelton Benjamin's mama. And, it was bad acting too, but the match wasn't terrible. Again, it wasn't. I mean, you figure a match with Viscera, it's not going to be a barn burner anyways. But not to cut you off. I just thought it was funny that they had the backstory of Shelton Benjamin wasn't eating well supposedly, so his mother goes to catering and she drops something or whatever and bends over, and then Viscera shows up. The lights go out, and Viscera's like, "Yeah." He's trying to spank her butt and stuff, and it's like, "Yeesh."
Only WWE can go from King Mabel to the world's largest love machine.
Yeah. And then he ends up being Big Daddy V before he ends up, passing away and whatever. Like he just they again, another guy that, maybe he got a little bit, and that was one of the things that Pritchard would say too, is that his weight got out of control, because it's too bad because he was an athletic big guy. Yeah.
There was a spot in this match that I don't think you could get away with today when Viscera is basically humping Shelton Benjamin on the mat.
Yeah, that
was like a shtick.
Shtick, all right.
I just want to point out, so before the show, I was curious because I remember Mama Benjamin, unfortunately. And I was like, I wonder if this kind of coincided with those awful Big Mama's House movies. And Big Mama's House 2 was released later this month. I just want to point that out. So that's probably why this gimmick was that, because they were probably trying to help out that terrible, terrible Big Mama's House movies. If you've never seen them, please don't see them.
Yeah. Disclaimer, don't bother.
But I thought this was actually pretty entertaining. One of the more entertaining matches on the card.
Well, I like when they go back after the match, they go to the hotline thing they had, and Shelton Benjamin didn't realize that his mom got involved, and she pulls the brick out of her purse, and Shelton's just like, "You mean I didn't hit her on my own?" No, you didn't. She hit him with a brick, you idiot. So yeah, he played the dumb I don't know what happened guy perfectly well. So
it's crazy how his character just went from, Team Angle with him and Charlie Haas, who, speaking of Charlie Haas, holy crap, woof. How they just went from like the world's greatest tag team to then he went to like the weird gold standard gimmick for a while, and now he's in the Hurt Business today. It's just weird how his character has just changed, and he's so talented. He's just always been saddled with such weird gimmicks.
Well, and he's a smaller guy. Yeah, he can wrestle and everything, and it's the same thing. If he was 6'5", 280 instead of whatever he is, he's probably 220 or something. But if he was a bigger guy, they never would have went away from him.
And I'll still always remember that spot.
If he was Bobby Lashley,
yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say I remember that.
No,
spot.
You're good. If he was Bobby Lashley's size,
yeah, he probably would have been even more dominant. Especially, he became a video game move when he ran up that friggin' ladder in the Money in the Bank match and just hopped on the ladder. Like, I'll still always remember that spot, or even that nasty super kick that was in the intro for a while that he jumped off the ropes and Shawn Michaels just nailed him.
Yeah, the springboard super kick, that was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen up until that point.
So moving on, we have the bra and panties gauntlet match. You have Ashley Massaro, Candice Michelle, Maria, Tori Wilson, and Victoria, with a special appearance by Moolah and Mae Young.
And of course, Mae Young just had to try to get naked.
Yep.
And again, like you said before, we can kind of just skip over this. This was when Garbage Wrestling and TNA, not the company TNA, was prevalent. They were trying to get their good-looking women on TV. And that's exactly what this was. Not that they weren't good looking. I'm not going to say they weren't, but they could have found something better for them to do than get naked in the middle of the ring, I would think. But whatever. It is what it is.
And it's just sad. It's another show. Tim and I talked about during Armageddon. Poor Victoria just kept getting lumped into these matches, and she was a legit wrestler. When she was Tara or Tara, however you want to say it, she showed that. And I got to meet her on the Jericho Cruise and talk to her for a little bit and pick her brain. And she's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And she's like, I loved playing a bitch. I love playing the heel. She's like, I didn't mind showing my boobs, but she's like, that's not all I am. And that kind of always stuck me. So I feel even, more bad now when I look back. I'm like, yeah, she really was just kind of thrown in these matches.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And she was one of those people that could wrestle, but also looked pretty good. So they just kind of lumped her in with like, here you go. You can go with the Candice Michelles and the Marias and the Ashley Mazzaros and the Tori Wilsons. And again, Tori was someone that could wrestle a little bit, but again, she wasn't there for wrestling.
Right.
Yeah. So next up is the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship. John Cena is your champion. The other participants are Carlito, Chris Masters, Shawn Michaels, Kane, and Kurt Angle. John Cena is going to retain in about 28 and a half minutes. I really like this chamber match simply because of the surprise factor. You had Kurt Angle being eliminated first.
And who eliminated him?
Shawn Michaels.
That's believable though. Like it's not like Carlito rolled him up. You know what I mean? Like like you said, this match was done perfectly because the way the people got eliminated was believable. Yeah. You had both Masters and Carlito pin Kane. Again, two guys that took to pin Kane. It made sense. The way they did this was one of the better ones that they've done, and it made sense. It was believable.
No, I agree. Besides having Chris Masters thrown in there because he was getting that mega push, it was solid. Everyone in there could work. Again, besides Chris Masters, Shawn Michaels worked a hell of a match.
Well, even Masters didn't look out of place though. He did what he could well, and it just it wasn't like he was the worst performer on the show or anything. But yeah, he was green and. He did what he could, and the match itself was actually really good.
Yeah, I definitely think it was definitely the match of the night for obvious reasons.
Yeah, and like I said, the singles match easily goes to Triple H and Big Show, but for storytelling and for a match standard, especially if we haven't got to what's going to happen after, but just from the match, the way that they eliminated everybody, the way the story was told. Carlito and Masters had that, they met backstage and talked about teaming up, and they kept that all the way going until the very end. And that's actually what backfired on Carlito when he turned on Masters. It was funny to see Cena win with a roll up.
Yeah.
But, it told the story, though. It was Cena was out of gas, and he got lucky. He just got out of the master lock, and the rest is history.
And lots of color in this match. Lots of color in the show.
Especially with Sean.
Yeah, Sean had a gusher going.
Yeah. Especially with Sean. But yeah, like we said, I thought this, like you said, Roland, I thought this match was perfect. The way they broke it down, way wrestlers got eliminated. Definitely probably the match of the night on the card.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. Mr. McMahon comes out, says the night is not over. He kind of sarcastically congratulates John Cena.
Raise the cage. I said raise the cage.
Cena's just a bloody mess in the corner.
Yep. He said that Edge is cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Edge and Lita come out, hands the briefcase to Vince McMahon. Edge runs down. He cashes in, hits a couple of spears. The first spear, Cena kicks out, hits the second spear, and Edge is your new champion.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it had happened quicker. I like the storyline. I wish it had happened quicker. I wish it had been more like Vince just came out and said, "Here's Edge, damn it!" And instead of like this 4-minute promo of like, "Well, Edge is going to do this after you raise the cage, damn it!" Like it was slow in developing, but it was a cool story. I think the fans were very happy because they were so anti-Cena that they were just happy that anybody beat him. Like they would have been happy if Masters somehow stole the title. They would have been like, "Oh, great, it's not Cena."
And then this
but anytime,
yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, this leads to the sex celebration the next night on on Raw, where Lita's boob falls out. And, this is easily the pinnacle of Edge's career at this point. Winning the title the way he did, he had the Money in the Bank for almost a year. I mean, he got it at WrestleMania the year before. There was no Money in the Bank pay-per-view at this time, right? The Money in the Bank match was at WrestleMania, I believe.
Yeah, and it was one of the first surprise cash-ins too.
10 minutes. Yeah, well, and that's what I wish it had been quicker. Knowing what we know now, like, if Vince had come out and just said raise the cage, Edge is cashing in and done it in like 30 seconds, maybe it would have been a little bit better. But it still wasn't bad. It was a great way to end the show. The fans got what they wanted. They didn't want Cena going home with the title, and he didn't. And then, like I said, the next night we got Lita's boob on TV.
I mean, besides the boob, I'm happy just because I've always been a huge Edge mark, kind of anti-Cena. So not that he's a bad worker, I just don't like his character for obvious reasons. And I was just happy that Edge cashed in because I remember that night. I literally jumped out of my couch. I was like, yes! And I still kind of had that same feeling again. Was like you said, it was a little drawn out, but it was glad when he cashed in because you were like, yeah.
Yeah, it was a cool, like you said, it was especially when they had Cena kick out of the first one. You didn't really know if he was going to win or not. Like that was a cool thing too. They told the story that way, but it was a good way to wrap up the show. I think I'd say the show was probably about a 6. Again, it was an average show. It had a couple of decent matches that were better than the rest, but I mean, there wasn't really a terrible. I mean, the bra and panties thing was kind of whatever, but I mean, other than that, there wasn't really a terrible match on the show.
That's a fair rating. I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat there. I would go with about a 6 as well. So that's our rundown of New Year's Revolution 2006. Real quick here, next week's show is going to be WCW Sold Out 1999, which is highlighted by Goldberg and Scott Hall in the Stun Gun ladder match. So looking forward to breaking down that one for you guys next week. We'll be back next Saturday at 5. Thanks for tuning in to us this week. Until next week, I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And this is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
I hope you're all having a nice day.